Hello everyone. This Google Sheet will help you track your expenses, so I'm going to walk you through it and show you how to use it. So we've got these different worksheets that I've created. The first one is called Transactions. The second one is called Income versus Expenses. Then we have the Income versus Expenses chart. And then we have the income categories, the expenses categories, and the totals. So let's start basically with the first one. So the way you would use this Google Sheet is that you would just simply enter your either income or expenses on the transaction tab. So for example, I've added these just so you can have some demo basically to play with. Okay, so let's say we've got an additional expense. You double click here and you get a calendar, and then you can choose basically the date. So let's go for example, the 1st of March, like that. And then as you select the date, automatically you will see here the number of month, as March is the third month of the year. So that basically is automatically updated here. Now, if you try to click here to make a change like delete, you will receive this warning. So every time you see this in the Google Sheet, just remember that this means you are trying to change a cell or a range of cell that is that contains formula. So of course, you can change that, but the Google Sheet might not work as intended. But I still want to provide you the flexibility to make any changes that you want. And that's why basically you will receive that warning. Okay, so let's put here, for example, just another expense. Because this is an expense, you have to select from this drop-down menu here. If it were an income, you would select from this drop-down menu. Okay, so take away, let's say we put it on the food. And then again here, if it were an income, you would enter in this cell. And if it's an expense, you enter in this cell. Let's say 10. And it automatically shows you basically your balance based on that. So if we go up a bit in the Google Sheet, you'll see that when you start, so the very first row basically, so here I put, I selected the category as salary for income, and then I put the income here, and then you see here a balance, and it says enter your current bank balance basically. So you could of course just enter 6,000. That's because there's got a formula here. Okay, this one doesn't have a formula. Okay, that's why it's got this yellow highlight. So you can change here. So let's say you've got only 6,000 in your bank account, which is the salary you just received. So you would simply go like this. Okay. But let's say you have more. Let's say you have 10,000. So now 10,000. So you had 4,000 and then you received 6,000 salaries and now you've got 10,000. So that's how you would change that. Everything else gets calculated for you automatically. So you don't need to do anything. And again, if you try to delete a cell here, you're going to always receive this heads up. So be very careful with that. Unless you really know what you're doing, I suggest you cancel it. When you see that. These here, so everything basically you see in column B, C, D, E, F, and G, you can manually input. So you can change anything that you want. And everything else is basically, it's got formula. So basically column A and H, they have formula. So as you basically work your way through the sheet and you keep adding expenses and income, etc., Now the first thing I want to show you is that you can actually change the categories that you want to use. So if we go, for example, to the income categories, or while we're here, so if you do this, you're going to see, okay, you've got salary, bonus, refund, other income. Okay, but just to show you, if we go to income categories, and that's where you would make that change. Now don't change this cell here. That's why I said do not delete this value, so keep that. But you can make your changes here. So let's call this other income 1, and then other income 2. So now when I go back to transactions and I try to select, it automatically shows here. So now you've got other income 1, other income 2. You can also rearrange those if you wish. So just to show you, so I can do this. Okay, if you go back here, now they get automatically reflected here. So that's basically what you can do. So I'm just gonna delete that. So you can add as many as you wish, as you need. And the same applies for the expenses categories. So anything you change here, you can add, remove, etc. It's gonna show basically here in this drop-down menu. Now, when we go to this worksheet, the income versus expenses, which is basically a tabular representation of your transactions for that year. So this is for 2022. So it starts in January 2022 and it ends in December 2022. If you want in the future, to have one for 2023, you would simply make a copy of this Google Sheet and you change everything to 2023 so that you use one Google Sheet every year, and this way it stays nice and tidy, so that you don't add more sort of worksheets to this Google Sheet. But of course it's your choice. Just remember that if you start to add worksheets to this one, then you need to know how to link, and you might end up with lots of errors. That's why I suggest for like following years, you simply make a copy of that one and you reset the data, and then you start to populate it again. Okay, so everything you basically choose in either the income categories or expenses categories, it's going to be reflected here in column A. So for example, and what I've done is because right now you just see basically 4 values in the income category, and you see basically 12 in the expenses section. But to make it easy for you, if you want to add more or if you want to see more, you simply unhide. So I've already created them for you. You simply come here and you can see that these arrows here. So it's showing that the rows between 7 and 25 are hidden, and here between 41 and 74. So what's in between is hidden. So let me show you how that works. For example, let's again add in the income categories. Let's say, okay, this is income 1, and that's income 2. So if we go back here, you can't see it, but it's actually there. All you have to do is unhide this. So you click here. Okay, if you're making some changes, you can do this, but just be careful. You don't delete the formula. Maybe it's better to not do that actually. Just keep it like this, but press OK. So now you can see other income 2 has been added. And if you want to add more, you go here. Okay, so now what happened is, because even all you have to do now is actually you need to remap the income categories. And the way you would do this, you would start at the top and you simply drag all the way down like that. So that's important, so that it kind of remaps those categories. So don't forget that. Once you've organized it, once you know which income categories you want to deal with, then it becomes very easy. So let's delete those again and just stick with those ones. And if I go here, okay, it's already updated, but you can always do this if you want, just kind of to be safe. And let's hide those again. So you just unhide them when you need to use them, basically. They're there. Okay, so let's hide. Okay. The same you can do with expenses, and I've added many more for expenses because normally people have way more expenses than income sources. So you would do the same thing. Okay, for me, I'm just gonna do this because it's a bit annoying. All right, so same principle applies here. So if we go here and let's say just create just to show you, and go all the way like this. Okay, so now when we go back here, they're showing, but I always recommend that what to do basically. How many we added actually? So 32 is the last one. Here it is. Okay, so we just come back here and do this just to be on the safe side. So now you've got basically all those categories here, and of course they're gonna show in the drop down menu here as well. So this is basically how that works. So you've got the flexibility basically to add, remove income or expenses categories, sort them alphabetically or in any other way. And every time you do that, it's gonna reflect straight away in the selection drop-down menu on the transactions worksheet. And as far as the income versus expenses tables, you would just need to basically just do this so that you map them again. And that's basically how that works. So let's get rid of them. Now, of course, if you have even more than those, you can also you can add. Basically, it's just that if you do this, you will have to remember to do a few things. For example, if I want to add more rows here, okay, so let's say I want to insert 21 rows below. Okay, so just notice that the kind of like the formula is gone. So you would have to fix that this way. Okay, so that now it's fixed basically. And now if you add more categories here, they're gonna show. So let's do that. Okay, so 59 is the last one. So again, we go back here. Let's go all the way. See what we get. Okay, 53. So you get the idea. Okay, so we can stop at 53 or add more rows basically and do the same thing. Okay, so now anything here will also be detected basically. Okay, so now let's get rid of them. Okay. See, they're gone. All you have to do now, just to make things easy, let's hide. Okay, so this is how that works. So you've got basically your income, and you've got your expenses, and you've got the difference between the two. So every time you add something here, for example, if you have Home insurance, car insurance, 2 expenses, 2 different dates. Okay, so it's 100 and 150. But anything else that is, where you've selected the category insurance, it's going to add them up. So when you come here, if you look, under January and insurance, so you've got 250. Okay, so this is how this would work, because you actually have in January, you've selected 2, cost related to insurance, and the total is 250, and you're gonna see it updated here automatically. So whatever you add, like when we just added the last one here, take away. Okay, so the description is anything that basically you want to use to describe that expense. So it doesn't have any effect on the sheet or the tables or anything else. But the categories do. So whatever category you choose is going to show here, and it's gonna basically group them together. So you can see here, because we added an expense for the 1st of March 2022, then you have it basically showing as an expense here, 10. So let's add another one. Let's say, also in March. So you double click, you see this calendar, and we choose March again. And let's say there's another takeaway, and you want to put it in food as well. And let's say it was 80. Okay. So again, you see here, it calculates automatically your balance after adding an expense or an income. Now we go back to this table, and now you see it's 90. So 10 plus 80, you have 90 here. So this is how this works. Same principle applies to all, be it income or expense. And again, you can see the differences here. I want to just highlight a couple of things which you might notice. So the way I've done it using conditional formatting, for example, if you have an income over 1,000, then it's gonna basically make it more bold. And if it's less than 1,000, it's gonna make it like just regular. This is why the 60 here uses a regular font. But these ones here, because they are more than $1,000, they use bold, basically. Same principle I applied here, just so that you can, for example, quickly see which expenses are the ones, or which categories are the ones you need to pay more attention to. For example, if you're spending too much on housing, etc., they're gonna basically pop up. And that's the idea. You can, of course, change that using conditional formatting. So if you decide, for example, that anything over $100 for you needs to be kind of highlighted in that way, then you simply adjust that conditional formatting rule, or the income. So that's basically the gist of it. Just see, and of course, just the usual stuff. So anything negative, will show with minus and red font. And if it's positive, I think it will. So let's add, for example, an income here. So let's say the income was much more than 6,000. We go back here. So you see it updates, and now this turns into green. So this is how this one works. And so this is basically how that works. And you can always click on the income versus expenses chart to see basically a visual representation of what you've of your total income versus your total expenses. So the last basically worksheet you're going to see is called totals. This is just there because it's kind of make things more tidy as far as using the chart. So these are protected, but again, you can make changes to them. But remember that if you do, it might basically you might end up seeing errors, in formulas and stuff like that. So unless you really need to, and unless you really know what you're doing, then I would stay away from anything that is locked, basically, in principle. But here it's just a table showing basically the months and the total income and total expenses, which are reflected basically in this chart here. And yeah, so this is basically how that works. It's very simple, very easy to use. And yeah, I hope you like it. And if you have any questions, please reach out and I'll help you with that. Okay, thank you.